This is Josh Reeves, and you're listening to the Mile High Church podcast. Thanks for listening. Hey, December 23rd and 24th are our candlelight services. They are inspiring, revelatory, and give you a sense of hope for yourself and humanity. And I don't know about you, but I sure do need it. The 23rd and 24th, 1, 4, and 7. And the 7 p.m.s are streaming online. Hope you can join us.
And just to be in the energy of what's going on here, I've been loving the messages of late. Dr. Michelle, she's not here. Dr. Michelle did an exquisite job on the first Sunday of the month articulating the cosmic Christ, and I'm going to springboard off of that a little bit today. Enjoyed Reverend Josh's message last week, and though a little bit misguided in the regard of what he holds to be the greatest musical decade. He's so right on in so many ways, but to pass over the 10 years of the Beatles library in favor of what, I don't know, but he's in my prayers for further enlightenment. And so we're in the flow of the river of the Christmas time, and I know it's quite a mixed bag. For many, it's a time of great merriment and magic and allowing the child within to come forth even more beautifully and joyfully. And for those, as mentioned in Dr. Michelle's prayer, there are those for whom this is a time of struggle and challenge, perhaps because of current circumstances, perhaps a loss in their life. And my heart is with you if you're in that situation. And for some, it has been a little bit, I've heard of a bit of a dampening of their spirit of late. And for others, it's just a sense of the continued commercialization of this very powerful, if not sacred time, the merchandising and of it all. The sense that sometimes the givingness is more out of obligation than out of that joyous impulse to give. I love this one teenager's creative response to that. He presented his dad, much to the dad's surprise, with this beautifully wrapped box. And his dad was shocked because he knew that his son had almost no money to buy a gift. So he with delight, he opened this thing. And in it, he found 2 AA batteries and a note that said, "Gift not included." And so there are many different ways to go about this. But I want to share a story some of you have heard. It's also come out as in form, one form of it as a children's book. But the story of the Fourth Magi, written years ago by Henry Van Dyke. And it's about what was to be the fourth king from the Orient that would journey to see the baby Jesus and present gifts at that long-awaited time when that glorious star would shine. This fourth Magi named Artaban, he looks up and he sees that it's happening. So Artaban gathers his gift to be given to the baby Jesus, a collection of beautiful, precious jewels. And he starts off to join the other 3 kings on their journey to Bethlehem. But along the way, he gets sidetracked, helping a traveler, a wayfarer who was deathly ill. And in so doing, he showed up late to the rendezvous with the other 3, and they had already left. So undaunted, Artaban continues on toward Bethlehem. The challenge being that he arrives late. The birth has already happened. Mary, Joseph, and Jesus have departed for Egypt. The 3 wise men long since have left. And he's alone there. So Artaban, continuing to carry these precious jewels, begins a 30-year journey following, seeking, trying to get to Jesus. 30 years. The problem being, throughout that span of time, he's always just a little late. a little late. And he misses Jesus time and time again, feeling worse and worse about himself. And then he encounters the needs of people along the way. And he starts to spend and to contribute these jewels. First to a lady who was being sold into slavery. He bought her and gave her her freedom. Next, there was a man who was going to be tossed in jail, and his oldest son was going to be given to his creditors as payment for the debt, and he paid off the debt. He gave some stones to a woman and her child who were in destitution. And before long, not only was he missing meeting up with Jesus, but he had nothing left. And he continued in his years to feel he was a miserable failure in his spiritual purpose. Until moments before his last breath, the Spirit of Jesus appears to him and tells him that not only is he not a miserable failure, but that through his many acts of kindness and caring, he has actually been the Christ, and he had no need to find him elsewhere. Now that touches and teaches me. It teaches me deeply about what this time really is all about. It's about allowing ourselves to be touched and to go deeper in our spiritual journey. You see, the wise men, they had a good intent. They knew that this experience signaled a shift in collective consciousness. Humanity was about to have birthed a shift that would be unprecedented and elevating. And they wanted to be there. They wanted to see this remarkable emanation of possibility, the possible human being born, and they wanted to honor. And they did. And then the three left. And I guess that's all well and good. And yet Artaban in the story, and of course it's a fable, but it has mythic truth throughout it, Artaban, he succeeds not in visiting with and seeing and adoring Jesus, but becoming the Christ energy that Jesus came to articulate and activate in human life. And I think of that, and I think of all those who play church, who dabble with religion and go and visit their place of spiritual attunement, their church, their temple, their ashram, their mosque, whatever it is, but they're just observing and honoring. But then there are those who dive in and become the message, become the Spirit, become the essence, attune to it, and continue to track their progress, continue to course correct, always embodying more of the light that it's about. I think of that even in terms of Christmas, how we can be with the many festivities, the traditions, all the beautiful aspects of it, to be sure. But will there be that time when we allow ourselves to really embrace and become and express what it's really all about? That incredible being, Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus of Nazareth, he came forth not to be the great exception, as our founder said, but the great example. He came forth not to be one who would be worshiped for generations upon generations afar, but he came forth to activate an expanded bandwidth and frequency of consciousness that was already innate but deeply buried within humanity. He came forth as the great shape shifter. He came forth as the big change agent of all time who would activate a greater consciousness of love. He said, I didn't come to destroy the law, I came to fulfill it, and the fulfilling is with the love. And with that, he came to fulfill us, every one of us. And he said, do the things that I have done. You will do the things I've done, and you will do greater things than I have done. He said, it is your Father's good pleasure to have given you the kingdom. And he was very clear. The kingdom of God is within you. Right now, wherever you sit, whatever's going on in your life, he would say to you, and I say to you, the kingdom of heaven is already within you. And he said, I have said you are God's, and all of you, children of the Most High. How we can have so miscomprehended and or distorted his message is beyond me. And yet the simple truth is that he says, follow me. He never said, worship me. He said, follow me. Artaban ended up doing that. Though he judged himself all the way as insufficient, he actually was fulfilling the possibility. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, "Let us no longer think merely of the traditional birth of Christ, numbering the years backward, but let us rather bring these years forward into our own experience and permit the new birth to take place in our own consciousness." That's my prayer for you for this Christmas. That something rebirths, reactivates, restimulates in your consciousness, in your heart, that brings back the goodness and the magic of life. Even if you're in the midst of your own private hell, you discover that there's a greater heaven within and available to you. May it be for you. It's to kind of give us direction on this, on the how-to part. How it is that we can be an everyday, current day Artaban in our life. I draw upon a mystic who wrote a lot of poetry, but he was a deep mystic, an Austrian mystic in the early 1900s. He wrote a bunch of beautiful stuff. But there's one line I want to bring forth, and it's going to be up on the screen. And even though Rainer Maria Rilke looks like he ate some bad strudel the night before in that picture, what he says is really powerful. The work of sight is done. Do heart work now. Do heart work now. That's what this is all about. That's what Artaban did. That's what can elevate and activate the greatest in you and me. Do heart work. Do heart work. Let me suggest some ways we can go about this. First of all, in doing heart work, be a messenger of hope. Be a messenger of hope. There's a lot of doomsday saying going on right now. Doom and gloom speaking going on right now. I invite you to discover something greater within yourself and be a messenger of hope. Of hope. Because no matter how dark things seems to be, there is still a light available that we can activate and that we can shine. I want to share with you about another really inspired being, Father Alfred Delp. And a picture of Father Delp is coming forth here. An amazing man. He was a Jesuit priest in Germany. And he was part of the resistance movement against the tyranny of Adolf Hitler. He was then condemned as a traitor and thrown into a Nazi prison camp. And while there in that camp, he wrote many letters and meditations during that experience that expressed his struggles, his victories, and his beliefs. And many of these are cherished to this day and deeply studied by folks. And he, in his own words, would pace 3 steps one way in his cell and then 3 steps another way, his wrists shackled in irons, but yet his heart aflame. His heart aflame. Sadly, Father Delp succumbed to the torture of that prison and passed away just days before this reading I want to share with you. I'm going to share it in parts. But I invite you to tune in to the incredible words of this man written in that horrific setting. There are always angels announcing their message of good news into the midst of anguish, scattering their seed of blessings that will spring up one day in the midst of the night. They call us to hope. Something about what was possible was not dimmed because of his circumstance. And he, in the midst of it, would call us to hope. To hope. So powerful. So hope sometimes gets a bad rap. I hear some students say, well, I don't want to hope. I want to know. And I want to have faith. And I said, that's great. But your faith will be nothing if it's not built on the foundation of hope. Hope is baseline. Hope is knowing that there's something greater afoot in this life. Hope is knowing that you can delay but not block divine destiny. Whether it's the unfoldment of the higher patterns of good within you and me, whether it's the transformation of human consciousness at a collective level, it can be delayed, it can be detoured, but it cannot be blocked nor destroyed. Hope knows that in the midst of the journey. And he goes on to say, if we want to be alive, then we must first believe in the golden seed of God that the angels have scattered and are still offering to open hearts. The golden seed of God, those thoughts from on high, as it were, those spiritual inspirations that come to the open-hearted, that can guide, that can encourage, that can uplift. Then we must walk through the gray days of our time as announcing messengers. So many need their courage strengthened. So many are in despair and in need of comfort. There is so much harshness that needs a gentle hand and an illuminating word. So much loneliness crying out for a word of release. So much loss and pain in search of inner meaning. The same today as then. And will we then be those who with compassion can be a radiance of some hope, sharing the scattered inspirations that come when in the midst of it all we open our hearts. We do heart work. He goes on, to eyes that do not see, it seems as though the final dice are being cast down here in the valley of death, on the battlefields, in the cities of violence and poverty, in the souls of millions who live lives of desperation. Those who are awake, however, sense the working of other powers, eternal realities which shine their light of the radiant fulfillment to come. There's what it's about. In the midst of the transformational journey of humankind, we sense the eternal realities still in charge. We sense other powers at work in our own lives. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but we know that something's unfolding by means of us. A fulfillment to come. And he concludes, from afar, sound the first notes, the new song of God's future. That future is still far off and only just announced and foretold, but fulfillment is happening. It is occurring today. And tomorrow the angels will tell what has happened with loud, rejoicing voices, and we will know it and be glad. This is the heart work that we do to go deeper to a greater reality and unfolding intelligence throughout all of creation and unfolding in our own lives. And such it is that even as Artaban, who pronounced himself a failure and thought he was way off course, discovered actually he was right on course. That's what we discover from time to time. That something's evolving in the midst of our journey, the high times and the low times. Oh yes, I encourage you, in the spirit of true Christmas, to be a messenger of hope. And to also then, secondly, be a keeper of light. There have always been guardians and keepers of light, whether it was those who tended the fire, the campfire, whether it's been those who actually lived in lighthouses and kept the flame and alive to warn the mariners of the rocks. In the Middle Ages, it is said that it was so arduous to start a fire from scratch that many people would carry with them metal boxes that had in them a glowing ember from the fire, which they would keep alight by occasionally adding little bits of kindling to it, such that wherever they went, they had the spark to start the fire. And wherever you are, I am, we carry the spark. We carry the spark that can light the fire, fan the flames of new energy, Maybe it's we notice someone who's struggling and we lift them. We speak to them. We become a believing force in their midst. I've had that in my life, in my journey. I've also had detractors. But I know that I am where I am because I cared enough to listen to those who believed in me and believe in their belief, even when I was struggling to believe in myself. Love this story of a certain elementary school teacher who taught writing and reading, and she refused to mark up her students' papers with a bunch of red ink with all the errors. And instead, she'd put stickers all over them, and she'd write nice and good job and stuff all over them, so much that the parents got a little concerned that she wasn't correcting them. But she said, listen, there'll be time for that. I want them to fall in love with words. I don't want them to be afraid to experiment and to try things and to express themselves. Because if you nip a bud, it'll never open. And I love that. I love that. We can get so adept at red inking people. You know, and telling them where they need to do this and ought to do that, and they're not enough here and they're not enough there. When what heart doesn't yearn for someone to come along and say, here's what I see that's so powerful in you. Keep doing more of that. Keep believing in that. Where in your life, in the midst of the folks you're around, might you be a keeper of light? And going forward, to have that realization that that's a sacred commission for you. Be a keeper of the light. And it starts with keeping your own flame afire. Keep it alight. Christmas can relight that flame. And then finally, if you're a messenger of hope and a keeper of the light, then you're perfectly equipped, finally, to be an angel of compassion. That may be the highest state that we attain, at least at this level of our evolution. And that is to be an active expression of compassion. Compassion. When we were with the Dalai Lama, he said it over and over. My religion is simple. Compassion. Compassion in action in our life. What a blessing it is when we impart that. I was reflecting about my many years here at Mile High and the beautiful people I've known, many of whom are here right now, and some have left us. And I was thinking about this beautiful couple in the mid-'80s that I got to know when I was an associate minister. They were so deeply in love. They'd been married between 40 and 45 years. I'm not sure exactly. But deeply in love. They had had such a rich journey together, travels and so many experiences raising a family. All of a sudden, one day, he collapsed and passed. And she was understandably in total shock. Total waves of grief, as we can all comprehend. And of course, the teaching helped her immensely, and yet you can't sidestep the kind of grieving that comes along with that territory in life. It's an expression of love that we grieve, you know. We only grieve because we first love. And I remember her also then coming in to talk to me at the first Christmas she would spend alone. And there were a lot of tears, and mine and hers. And eventually she said, but I've come to a realization, and I'll never forget it because I was so stunned by her realizing this in the midst of her ongoing grieving. And she said, I can still give the kind of love my husband and I experienced. I can still give it. I still have that capacity. And I don't know how, Roger, but one way or another, I'm going forth into this new year and I'm going to give it. And I thought, who's ministering to whom here? Wow. And I know that she, over the next several months, would say that she had experimented with this. She'd gone to this group and volunteered, or this organization. But then somewhere in that year, she came to me with a special joy. She had found her niche. She had gotten involved in a shelter for teenagers, abandoned or runaway teenagers. And she found that place where she opened her heart and she just gave and gave and gave. Over the course of 7 or 8 years, she got to the place where she was spending 3 or 4 days a week volunteering there. She was just pouring her whole heart to the place. She was, for many of those young people, the grandmother they'd never had. And it was a stunningly beautiful thing. And to see also her own evolution and her own return to a life of joy and meaning. At one point, she even provided financial assistance to 2 of the teenagers to go to our local community colleges. It was a stunningly beautiful thing. At the heart of it, she had a ritual, she told me, that every Thanksgiving, she would light a candle by a picture of her husband and dedicate herself to a continued expression of the love that they had experienced together. And she told me, yeah, there are sad times. There are times I miss him deeply, deeply. And yet I feel so good about my heart and my ability to love. Well, she's no longer with us, but boy, does her memory teach me continually. Not only will our compassion be a blessing around us, but it'll lift us all up into the life for which we're designed. That's heart work, gang. To announce a hope when it seems like all the forces around us are denying it, but to go deeper and sense that other reality unfolding itself through us. To carry that spark, to be a keeper of the light, to keep our own flame burning so that we can spark others, kindle that flame in others, and to let our compassion touch the world. I tell you, you do this. Spend some time in the next days leading up to this ritual, significant time, and you'll find that your life blossoms and that this Christmas time becomes a renewal time, a re-enchantment time, a rediscovery of the deepest purpose of your being. It's said that on that day, thousands of years ago, love was born. May it be reborn in our hearts and in our lives right now. Let's have a prayer together. So we slow down with the words and move into the experience together. Take a deep breath and bring yourself to this full moment, this sacred now. And let your energy move from your head downward to the center of your chest, your heart. Let your shoulders fall. And without trying to force anything to happen, simply allow your awareness and your breathing to be centered right here in your heart chakra. And just give to it. You see, your heart knows how to awaken when we move out of the clutches of fear that close or protect the heart and surrender to it. And so allow your heart to not only quicken but to warm you. Just allow. Just allow. And perhaps you'll sense that something does indeed shift within you. That something wells up, perhaps proclaiming, "Thou art my beloved child, in whom I am well pleased." And we have the opportunity to sense the abiding and eternal love of that which is and ever shall be. Loving our own life, its creation, its breath, its spirit. Perhaps you sense that the old challenges and their claim on you are weakening, and in their place, a deep comfort is emerging. And a deep sense that life is still good. So good. May that peace that passeth all human understanding continue to emerge in your heart. And realize you've come home. Welcome home to the hearth of the heart, wherein all answers are available. Welcome to the higher self, the authentic self, God's idea of you. Welcome to higher vision and creativity for your life. Welcome to true strength and power. Welcome home. Welcome to Christmas, the birthing anew, as you go forth as everyday artisans, not just knowing a truth, being it. I affirm and know every being here is luminous in the radiance of divine love. I know the strength, the wisdom, the fortitude we seek is already here. And we open, and we allow. And we give thanks for the strength, the renewal, and the good that flows through us for all. We give thanks. We are truly and profoundly blessed and a blessing. And we let this heart energy not just remain in this experience, but fill this room, blessing every beautiful soul who's been attracted here, blessing those watching online in our midst, where there's no separation, blessing our community, our state, blessing our country, and our world, all beings and sentient beings, all creation, Grandmother Earth herself. We are lifted up together. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for the power of our heart work. With great joy, we move here from this place, shining our lights. It is good and very good. We let it be. And it is done. And so it is. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.